Hello and welcome to Raj Sabha TV. You're watching India Fights Back with the host Rajat Kain. Well, in this episode, we'll discuss about the changing face of pandemic, that is COVID-19. Now, what are the essential changes or the transformations that has been seen in the pandemic over the course of second year? If we compare toll and numbers and of course the height of pandemic of the first phase, that is previous year in 2020, and of course current year as to what we're experiencing the second wave, there has been a remarkable difference. The height, or to say the maximum toll for a day recorded, has seen fourfold increase on certain days. If we compare just the numbers, of course the toll of the casualties has been higher as well. What lies ahead? What are the key studies that we infer from phase 2, and of course use that for a treatment protocol and vaccination? To discuss further on these important issue rather, we're joined with Dr. Rajesh Malhotra, Chief of AIIMS Trauma Center and COVID Facility, New Delhi. Many thanks, Dr. Malhotra, for joining us, and Dr. Rohit Sarin, former director, NITRD. Many thanks, Dr. Sarin, for joining us as well. Let me start with you, Dr. Malhotra. What have you witnessed in terms of second wave? The key takeaways and of course, like severity of the spread that we have seen. What has been the changing face of pandemic?
So, Rajat, thanks for having me in your show. All diseases are, in medicine, we say, are a result of interaction between the host, the agent, and the environment. In this case, the host, which we have seen, there was a definite trend towards involvement of the younger people. More younger people were involved, maybe because they were unprotected or they were going out. The agent, we suspect this one was far more transmissible. If you look at the way at the ascent of the second wave, you see the spike was very sharp. So definitely you were dealing here with subtle mutation of the virus, which lent it more transmissibility, as we say, or it was more infectious, to put it in the simple terms. And the third is the environment. It actually got the right environment by people disregarding the COVID appropriate behavior and getting together in large numbers for various reasons. The other thing which we saw was a change in the presentation, the symptoms, and they were, if the first time we hardly saw anybody with a running nose, this time running nose was no evidence of not having COVID. The features like headache, a large number of patients had gastrointestinal symptoms, red eyes, and it was a bigger mimicker this time. So the other thing which actually made an impact on the management was a large number of sick patients needing hospitalizations, oxygen, and ICU beds. And that is partly because even if it's a small fraction of the total number of people affected by COVID, the total number of people involved was so large that, even 5% or 4% of it translated into huge numbers, thus overwhelming the entire healthcare system, the kind of which we did not see in the first wave. So all in all, like you said, it was a nightmare, the kind of which we hope never to see again.
Right, absolutely. Dr. Rohit Sarin, former director of National Institute of Tuberculosis and Respiratory Disease. Sir, many thanks to be a part of the show, Dr. Sarin. Sir, we just heard from Dr. Malhotra in terms of severity of course, the changing face, as we can put it in rather very soft nomenclature of it. So, I mean, given the mutations of virus and given the severity of spread, was it something that we were expecting it? And in days to come, we're just talking on the hypothesis of transformation from the first wave to second wave. There have been talk about third wave as well. So what do we expect from the third wave?
Well, I mean, coming to your first observation, Rajat, you see, we were really not expecting or anticipating the severity of the second wave. I mean, the health system itself was not geared up to catch it so fast. Yes, it was that this particular pandemic would take its time to go, But no one expected, even though in certain parts of the world we had seen a second wave. But to this magnitude, it was not expected. And because we were caught unawares, therefore, I think the larger calamities which happened or which were seen resulted thereof. So I would say this, that yes, now for the future, we are a bit more forewarned, in the sense
Mm-hmm.
that yes, the next wave could happen. I am not saying it will happen, because we are all very hopeful that with our strategy of rapid vaccination to the susceptible population, with the strategy of enforcing and ensuring that people follow the COVID appropriate behavior. And I would say the public at large also, now society realizes that it has to pay a very heavy penalty in case they are, you see, not following this COVID appropriate behavior. So, in that way, both the society as well as the health system is a bit more prepared than I would say it was for the second wave. Secondly, I would also add here that, you see, as this infection now has been with us for some time, I mean, it's over a year now, we also have learned something about the virus. We also have, built up evidence what will be useful, what will be more useful, and how to go about the whole process of handling the transmission, how to go about the process of, handling the treatment, especially the severer forms. So all those things, yes, the medical fraternity science has also developed, and that again makes us better prepared for the third wave if it happens.
Right, right. Dr. Sarin, before I move to Dr. Malhotra, I just want to pick your thoughts about, the strategies ahead as in terms of the treatment protocol. Sir, as you mentioned that, you're very hopeful with the mass immunization program or the aggressive vaccination here. What changes, if at all, would you like to see in the current vaccination program? You see that there is a scope for having more groups in terms of say the priority area to be vaccinated at the first group. Dr.
Well,
Sarin?
yeah, uh, I think it is very clear here that the prioritization process which was there for the vaccination, that is also gradually shifting. Whereas when we initiated, we were moving more towards the 60 plus age group. Now we are
Right.
moving more towards the 60 minus age group, rather the 45 minus age group, so to say now. And,
Mm-hmm.
science is also moving about to see whether the children can also be vaccinated, and whether, that particular section of society can also benefit from the availability of this vaccination. So, I mean, the prioritization is gradually shifting from the older age groups to the younger age groups. And I would say sooner than later, we would find nearly the entire population will get vaccinated in the months to come. As far as the treatment protocols are concerned, yes, as I said, that with advancing science, we also came to know which drugs are going to be useful and which drugs are out of the basket. And
Mm.
there were times when any new drug which was coming was being accepted that, well, yes, it may have a benefit, and one would start on with that particular therapy. And it's not only government institutions, everywhere, private hospitals, corporate side, everyone was following the same sort of a bhed chal, that one would go in one direction and everyone would start going in that direction. But today, I would say that evidence is more pointing towards certain aspects. There are a group of drugs which affect on the virus, that we call as the
Mm.
antiviral drugs. Then there are
Mm.
a group of drugs which act on the inflammation. They are the anti-inflammatory drugs. And then there are a group of drugs which prevent the so-called thrombosis, which is a sequelae of this particular infection, which happens somewhere after the second week. So the timing of these interventions is also becoming, more clearer. Earlier, they were saying that no matter whatever the stage, just give the antiviral drug. Now it is known that no antiviral drug will not have any action if it is given later on in the disease. It had to be given in a period when virus is multiplying. Similarly, there is no point in giving the anti-inflammatories much earlier in the disease. They have to be
Right.
given somewhere where inflammation is going to be more marked. And so
Mhm.
the drugs, the timing, everything is becoming more clearer. And I'm sure that this will help us save lives in the coming days to come.
Right, right, right. Dr. Malhotra, your thoughts about say the treatment protocol in the days to come, and of course, like we're not anticipating a third wave here, but at least on the hypothesis of what we are seeing and what has been talked. Even the Supreme Court has acknowledged that there has been some thoughts about or preparedness about the third wave. So your thoughts about, or rather your views about the treatment protocol, sir.
So the one is that I'll again start with the agent, host, and environment. So one is the environment. So I agree that this time the common public at large has understood the importance of the COVID appropriate behavior, seeing how we have suffered medically, economically, socially. This time it hasn't left any family untouched. Anybody, somebody you know around you has been affected. So I do hope that the people are now going to be more compliant with the COVID appropriate behavior, which is actually a major step for interrupting the chain of spread. The As far as the host is concerned, now with every bout of immunization, or with the another crore being added to the vaccination, the chances of the people getting involved is becoming less. So we are trying to reduce the number of susceptible hoops. One of the reasons why it has been said that the children may be involved in the third wave is because, when we protected the elderly, it in the second wave it affected the younger age group, which was not yet protected. So once they are vaccinated, then because the children are expected to be the last group to be vaccinated, because they don't get very severe disease. So that is the reason. So again, protecting as many people as possible, either by the COVID appropriate behavior, not either, definitely by COVID appropriate behavior, as well as the vaccination to stop the chain of transmission, is going to reduce the likelihood of getting affected. The agent is going to mutate. We know it mutates and it is going to continue mutating, but let's not assume the worst, because we know that these viruses sometimes mutate to a less harmful state also. And we all talk about the fact that eventually this disease will become endemic. And what it means is, even if it is highly infective, it becomes less deadly, and then it is confined to a small group of people who are not protected, or who get disease in spite of being protected. It's like something we call a reinfection or a breakthrough infection. After all, we vaccinate all children against measles, still you get some children who get measles. So
Right.
it will be
Right.
endemic like this. But the big fact about endemicity is that it is not lethal anymore. It's not so lethal, and it is actually restricted to a smaller population. So that is what I see the eventual outcome of pandemic, where it becomes endemic to small pockets of population. And then eventually, the way we have universal immunization program, when the children are being vaccinated, they get vaccinated against the COVID vaccine also, so that there's no free transmission of the virus in the community. About the treatment, I'm quite optimistic. Now, one is that the previously available treatment protocols are not evolved, because as it has always been said, that we are building the aeroplane as we are flying the aeroplane as we are building it, or as we are sailing the ship as we are building it. This is a new disease, so our protocols have evolved to a large extent. We have been able to save a lot of lives by timely intervention. But then I am optimistic about the newer interventions like newer vaccines. Say, for example, a nasal vaccine, which is so easy to
Mhm.
administer once it becomes available. Single dose vaccine, which is likely to land soon in India. The biologically is going to manufacture it along with Johnson and Johnson. So you understand that a single dose, which gives you protection after 28 days, will be a shot in the arm for the vaccination program, because you don't have to wait for 2 weeks or 3 weeks after the second dose for a person to be protected. Similarly, there are drugs in the pipeline which are oral tablets which can actually immediately make a person non-infective. So in case you get infection, you pop up a tablet, and within 24 hours or so you
Okay.
stop becoming you are no more infective to others. Molnupiravir is one such medicine which is actually undergoing trials. So I
Mhm.
think that we are going to get better prepared with passing time. We are going to know more about what works, what does not work. But the backbone of the entire protection against this remain the four pillars. The three pillars of
Mhm.
the COVID appropriate behavior, and the fourth pillar of vaccination. That's what is going to save lives for us.
So, but talking about the fourth pillar of vaccination, you see in days to come rather more broad basing of vaccine in terms of including children as well, or group under age of 18 years. How essential do you see that, and how quickly it should happen? As an expert, I'm asking this question to you, sir.
So let me get back to the philosophy of vaccination per se to explain it better. When you talk about vaccination, there's an ethical part. The ethical question is whether we should vaccinate the young and healthy who are going to go out and become super spreaders, because in US it was seen that the youngsters were going out and partying, and they are the ones who have to leave the house to for their livelihood. They are the ones who have to move out. So if you target this, you are preventing the spread of the disease, but you are not saving many lives, because in the first wave, at least as it showed, and all over the world it was showed that the younger people are less likely to die. So that's where the vaccination of the older people or those with diseases was done, so that we can put brakes on the number of deaths.
Many thanks, sir. This is really important to us to impart more and more information to everyone, every recipient, or to say the last recipient for vaccination. Of course, awareness of this extremely dangerous disease as well. Sir, closing remark to both of you. Let me start with you, Dr. Rohit, Sarin, sir. Will we see better coordination in terms of, say, state and center and other areas which needs to be fixed if we talk of the vaccination and the changing face of this pandemic? So, just closing
Well,
lines, sir.
yes, well, we have to fight the battle together. It is not going to be a divided effort, whether it is state center, whether it is health system versus the society. Everyone has to be part of that particular struggle and fight, and only then we can win. And in our armamentarium, as already stated by Dr. Malhotra, that it is going to be the COVID appropriate behavior and combined with the vaccination program. These are
Right.
the things which will matter. Drugs may come,
Hmm.
may be effective, may not be effective against the mutant strain. So please, friends, go back with this message that continue on with the COVID appropriate behavior and get vaccinated whenever your turn comes. Thank you, sir.
Right. Dr. Malhotra, your views, sir. Closing
So
lines, sir.
we have a very robust public health system, and we have the largest immunization program in the world. We vaccinate more than 10 crore children every year and nearly 3 crore pregnant women. So I have full faith in my system that we can reach the deepest part and the most remote corners of the country. I'm sure that we will overcome the hurdles which we have identified, and I'm very sure that by the end of the year we will have vaccinated all the adult population using all these. We can overcome the digital divide by using the more than 75,000 the Ayushman Bharat Health Wellness Centers for giving vaccination, which are run by primarily by women. And I think if we convince the women in the society, not only they will not be neglected and they'll be protected, but they have influence on the entire household. So I am very clear that our program, with which we have been able to eradicate polio and smallpox, we are going to win, and I think it's only a
Right.
matter of time that we put our act together, and we'll be able to vaccinate everybody who is susceptible, at least in the adult population, at the earliest.
Right. Many thanks, Dr. Rajesh Malhotra from AIIMS, and many thanks, Professor Rohit Sarin, former director NITRD, for your views on this extremely important aspect of the spread and extent of the COVID-19 pandemic and what lies ahead in future, how the authorities should go about the protocol for vaccination as well as treatment. Well, many thanks. But as our experts, as our guests have just urged to all our viewers, I would like to repeat once again, please keep following COVID appropriate behavior of physical distancing, wearing a face mask, and keep washing your hands. Remember, these are small things that can help us in defeating this pandemic. Thank you. Goodbye.